Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and we have an extra big Yule today because not only is it Tristan Bray, but it's Tristan Bray in person. How are you, brother?
I'm really good.
Oh man, it's so good to have you here. I can't tell you how stoked I am. Finally have you in Melbourne, to have you across the table, to connect in the physical, have a really yummy chat.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. I'm only here a few days, so it's been super cool to line it up.
It's like just natural flow and alignment as always, right? For those tuning in to Tristan for the first time, there are 2 other podcast episodes which, look, I'm just going to be upfront about it. Please go listen to them. We shared this before, but your podcast on the Inspired Evolution really hold a very, very special place for me in the Inspired Evolution. I feel really blessed to be able to just have these conversations, and for me, for the most part, is just holding space for 2, I guess, like-minded, like-hearted individuals to come. And I think what really differentiates this conversation to the others is that it's an exploration between yourself and myself. It's kind of what I've always felt, and I really enjoy the things that we explore, and what comes out in the conversation is I always leave better for having had the chats with you. So for those tuning in, Tristan has now developed the Attunement Therapy. And Attunement Therapy is modern healing modality. It's basically based on some of the most ancient biological principles, and we're going to dive deep into what some of those are. And these are relevant to human physical and emotional health. He says that evolution has wired us to be physically connected with each other and other people on a regular basis to maintain a healthy body, to de-stress, and fundamentally to heal where we haven't had that connection. Attunement therapy not only provides the opportunity for safe, non-sexual touch, but it's also effective that it can also reorganize the nervous system, and this is where it all gets really yummy, right? And he does this so that clients can walk away with a heightened sense of self and the willpower to seek more physical connection with other people. And man, I'm just so chuffed to have you here and to dive into like something that is so concrete now. Attunement therapy, why attunement? Why attunement?
Yeah, well, attunement, Gabriel Martin talks about attunement in a lot of his books as the attunement bond between an infant and their parents. Often this applies more to a breastfeeding mother, but dad as well, or a primary caregiver. Basically, whoever is the main person looking after an infant, they will develop an attunement bond with that person.
Right.
And attunement, the definition, is almost like the sharing of emotional spaces. And the interesting thing about that is an infant, the first 9 months out of the womb is called the second 9 months of gestation. And this is where this radical thing, which is pretty obvious once you look at the science, but for a lot of people it's radical, where I think it was one of the sort of famous sort of psychotherapists, Jung, I think, said that your children are swimming in your subconscious. Like, so what does that mean? Subconscious is, we have a thing, like humans have a thing called a prefrontal cortex that sets us apart from most other mammals. And this is like the executive function of the brain. Like this sort of real decision making, what am I going to do, planning and this sort of thing.
Reflecting on the past.
Yeah, but this part of the brain can also reflect on some of our deeper impulses, which are running automatically. Especially say things like the limbic brain around sort of food and kind of your space and sexuality and kind of safety. And you can kind of like look at a kid with an ice cream and go, I want that ice cream. And if they talk about the limbic brain like anything a dog would do. The dog can grab the ice cream at will, but we can be like, I'm not going to steal that kid's ice cream. Right, just yet. So the prefrontal cortex is able to override the subconscious. But the subconscious is the rest of the brain. Everything apart from the prefrontal cortex. And this, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this as well in his books. He's a cell biologist. He talks about how 95% how we feel is the subconscious. It's mostly what's going on. So, when you look at someone in the eyes and they tell you they're fine, and their eyes are telling you the opposite. So, the interesting thing about that is that the eyes are broadcasting the subconscious emotion of what's actually going on. This is why when someone's not really truthful with you, especially around emotion, you can actually feel the glitchiness coming out of their body because they're saying one thing and actually kind of feeling another thing.
Right.
Yeah. So when children are swimming in your subconscious, there's a thing called mirror neurons, and this is the actual physiological faculty for empathy. where we can feel each other. So if you're a stressed, angry, bored, or whatever anxious parent, you can kind of pretend to maybe be all good with your kids, but they are downloading your subconscious.
Yeah.
And there's a really important reason for this, is that children are, all of our brains, we're so intelligent automatically. That means that your children are preparing for an adult life in the exact same environment as you. So through human evolution, often we stay in the same environment as our parents, our grandparents. We might stay in the same village or tribe or clan. So we're preparing for the same environment. So if you live in a hostile, stressful, warring kind of area, you are going to build a hypervigilant brain by copying and downloading your parents' brain and building yours as the same. And young children are literally creating millions of synaptic connections a second. And then when we go to sleep at night, especially kids, but adults too, we are pruning the synapses we don't need. You know, that's why I can't do algebra anymore, because I can't keep up the practice. My brain's like, okay, really, we don't need to know how to do simultaneous equations anymore. You know, when I was 16, I was pretty good at it, but it's been pruned. So...
And we're not actually conscious of this happening at the time.
No. So if you live in an environment for disconnection and hypervigilance, and we need to be strong and aware and scanning the situation for threats, even in a one-on-one environment, in a room with someone who has trauma or has grown up in a way where their attunement with their parents has been downloading sort of vigilance, means that it's harder to focus and be in a peaceful connection with someone, because you are prepared for threats all the time, which means you're automatically scanning the environment with all of your senses, which is a form of anxiety. But it's, again, stress and anxiety is not something we choose to feel. These are subconscious.
Right.
So attunement is based on this connection with your parents. And the reason I called it attunement therapy is it reboots this experience for adults, because so much of what we talk about here with child brain development absolutely applies to adults too. If we grow up in the right environment, it takes 18 years for us to learn how to emotionally self-regulate. Right? This means that we can deal with unpleasant emotions on our own. Most of us don't experience perfect parenting.
Get that.
So we have different aspects of our neurology which play out in ways where we need human connection to come into balance. But we live in a society where non-sexual, safe physical connection is quite radical
and rare,
and it's really sad. But then there's also a very clear lineage of our evolution as a culture into why this has happened. Whether it be warfare in our genetic lineage, that we're absorbing this kind of trauma. And we do absorb the hypervigilance and trauma of, like, most of us have physical qualities in our nervous system which are a direct effect inherited from the stresses of World War II, or World War I, or Vietnam, or the Great Depression, or famines. We have people here in our culture who have suffered great loss and stress in their ancestry, just in Europe. It's different, whether it be famine or these sorts of things, or political upheaval,
And this may sound somewhat far-fetched, but the reality of the situation is they've done experiments with lots of monkeys as well, but also with cows. If a cow walks into an electric fence, 4 to 7 generations, that cow's offspring know not to walk into that fence, not having ever walked into the fence themselves.
It's amazing. They've done experiments with actual, this is an epigenetic learning that's inherited. They've done experiments with different microscopic worms that produce, say, light that glow. And they only glow if they're given a certain stimulus. But you take that stimulus away and they'll keep glowing for something like 40 or 50 generations without stimulus. So those cows, for example, you could de-electrify the fences, and they can just keep treating those fences like they're electric for many generations. Same thing with one of the trainings what they do with elephants in India is the baby elephant, they tie them up to a stake and they can't move. And then the adult elephants are so strong that if you tie them to a stake, they'll just pull it out of the ground. but the entrainment makes them think they can't get away. You know, and this can be inherited too. Yeah. So it's an amazing thing to look at as well. The corporate and religious programming in our culture that keeps us separate.
Yeah, boundaries.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons why a stressed society is good for economics. Many reasons.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have stress and hypervigilance and anxiety in their life become obsessed with the outside environment on a safety level. But it might not seem like that. But that means that you become obsessed with material goods and become obsessed with consuming physical reality to try and find meaning in yourself.
Fill the voids.
That's right. Yeah. And then we have different types of religions that often we are experiencing the emotional principles of those religions in our nervous system, even though we didn't go and attend a church ever in our life.
Right.
So aspects like original sin. So original sin plays out constantly in our society. Here's a good example. It's the way we insult each other in a normal way. There's a movie, Tom Cruise, War of the Worlds.
Okay.
It's a cool movie. I put it on the other day, and one of the first scenes, he's playing baseball. He's chucking the baseball in the garden with his son,
right?
And he tells his son to stop being such a dick, and his son says, "Well, you should stop being such an asshole."
Yeah.
This is a normal insult. But these insults are based on Christian original sin,
right,
where the sexual parts of our body are seen as dirty, vulgar, and can be used as insult words.
Shunning and a rejection. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this means that we have a constant sharing of shame. We're projecting shame around sexuality or the sexual center. This comes to, it's obvious with women's, sexual centers as well, the sort of insults we have in our culture.
Yeah.
So when you couple insult and shame with the sexual center, it creates a compounding sense of guilt or shame around having a human body.
Yeah.
Which means that our ability to have self-worth and to feel worthy of close human connection, especially physical connection, is impaired for a lot of people. Again, many of us are not active in religion. We actually do live in quite an atheist culture, but we have absorbed many of these principles, which we're still waking up from.
Right.
It's a waking up process and coming into the fact that we are in bodies and our bodies are divine, really. And yet these sort of words like divinity is a very religious word. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with having sexuality. So like one of the things I try and share with people is to be mindful with what sort of words we use, especially if you're trying to bring someone down. Because the easiest way to bring someone down in their nervous system, in their subconscious, is to insult their sexuality. Yeah. So it's a really far out thing. So it's all based around self-worth and how we often have like a resistance to close human connection for many, many different reasons. Trauma is another one. Yeah. We live in a very traumatized culture. A lot of people the statistics don't exist because a lot of trauma is not reported, especially assault and sexual assault. Yeah. The Royal Inquiry into institutionalized abuse of children in Australia brought up so many disturbing results. That was a few years ago, and the government's still working on how to work with this information. Yeah. But one of the key elements they came across was it takes on average 30 years for someone to tell someone else that they were abused, if they survive that long. So this means that the statistics don't really exist. We don't know, but we can say that most people have a direct experience with a very serious traumatic event, or they created a traumatic event as a perpetrator, which can affect people in just the same sort of way, as far as guilt and shame goes. And often we have someone close to us, like a partner or a mother or a father or a brother, sister, who experiences similar trauma, which affects us too, especially this sort of way we sort of share the burden of experience, especially in our partnerships, So we're all very affected by these sorts of events, and we lack a lot of the guidelines or the kind of the pathway to understanding how to heal the body in our culture. And often so much healing we're exposed to is more of a band-aid effect. And I'm talking things like alcohol, antipsychotics, antidepressants, marijuana,
suppress the symptoms.
Suppress the symptoms. And so you can kind of try and block something out and cope with it. And the amazing thing that I try and share as much as I can is to give people hope, because especially this sort of trauma can make people feel like damaged goods forever. Yeah. And that, so when you don't have hope in this way around how you're feeling and kind of evolving in this way, it can be very scary. So I really like to share these sorts of stories of people, sort of testimonies, people's healing experience of how sometimes the most bright, shiny, happy, in love with life and themselves people we can meet actually may have been through something very heavy. And have graduated through that experience. They're aware of it, but it doesn't rule their life anymore. Yeah, so I really like kind of getting that hope out there. The whole idea of attunement therapy is it's an incredibly simple healing modality. That's easy to learn. And it's very effective. And anyone can do it. So much of the training that I'm sharing with people it's about what not to do. It's so amazing that it's like an allowing. You're holding space for someone's nervous system to go, oh, okay, cool. We can move this energy now. And you can talk about energy, but really it's quite scientific. It's about a reboot in the nervous system and real serious changes in the brain. And when you do this in the brain, you're changing the hormonal makeup in the body instantaneously.
Well, this is scientifically proven, right? Like touch is it immediately triggers oxytocin in your brain.
That's
So
right.
being able to connect with someone physically, immediately you start to de-stress.
That's right.
Like, even if you're an introvert, you get the same experience, like connecting with someone.
However, if you weren't touched enough during rapid brain development, that means the neural pathways for oxytocin aren't being used enough. That means that the availability of oxytocin for you may be less for your whole life. The cool thing about attunement therapy is it reboots the oxytocin neural pathways and makes it more available.
Right.
So, like in oxytocin as well, there's receptor sites in all your organs for oxytocin that makes all your organs healthier. So for people who don't know, oxytocin is like it's a neurotransmitter, and it's responsible for giving us the drive and the willpower and like a pleasurable reward for human connection, in particular touch. So they've done experiments. Like one, they did this with a lab rat, like a mother lab rat with babies, and they can give her an injection of a chemical which will block oxytocin, and she will just leave her babies. They'll just starve to death.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like a chemical that's responsible.
It's quite fundamental.
Exactly. It's fundamental for healthy parenting.
Yeah, right.
So, we live in a culture where we have a thing called disappearing dad disorder. We call it DDD.
Right.
This is where a lot of men inherit a lacking in the oxytocin neural pathway from their fathers. So many men want to feel more of a drive and a bond with their children. They know what they want to feel. But they don't know how to feel it. And we absorb this, and it's healable. The brain is plastic. They say it's like neuroplasticity. There's lots of books on this. We can change the brain. So women have a higher availability of oxytocin through certain drives like breastfeeding and just being in more physical contact with the baby naturally. So women often have a far bigger drive to stick around. So back to Gabor Mate, he says we don't need to do more research at all on the state of human health when it comes to sort of the stress and anxiety that can cause all kinds of different illnesses. And the sort of stress and anxiety that can cause, like illnesses that will kill you, but also the sort of stress and anxiety that will cause ADD and cause long-term depression or addiction. We don't need more research. We already know all we need to do is treat children better. That's why healthy families are really the key to healing the earth. It's really simple. So, and oxytocin is one of the biological imperatives to create that.
So the thing that fascinates me is, as you're sharing this, is how innately the biology supports most fluidly and most rewardingly, if you will, what is innately positive for ourselves and our environment. Like just following that path is, and yet we somehow manufacture other ways of being, you know, and like you elaborated before, perhaps, you know, there was a war or climate or something that, you know, we took on a certain different way of being. And I'm finding it really fascinating that recently I heard this in the Fijian culture, kids are basically held for years. Like pretty much there is someone strapped to the baby, they have these little halter strap things, and the baby is in contact physically skin to skin with someone through their development years. And it's interesting, like just where the psychology sort of tits out. And I reflect on my own childhood because over time I've had to come to terms with the fact that I have certain like hypochondriac tendencies. And I totally understand, like, obviously I don't mean that to, what my tendencies are not like extreme. So someone that actually has hypochondria, no disrespect. But like a clean pillow means something to me. I wouldn't sit on my pillow, you know. When I first started dating my girlfriend, she was totally cool with like, it's a pillow. You can use it for whatever you need to. You can use it, sit on it, sit on it. Sleep on it, sleep on it. It's a pillow, mate. And I was like, whoa, like you're completely throwing my paradigm on like what cleanliness means to me. But I realized it was just a form of hypochondria. But I realized that as I reflected on this idea of kids always being held, I started thinking like, when you sleep, do you hold your baby? Because in the West, we have babies' cots to isolate them so that we don't roll over and suffocate them or traumatize our baby in any way. But the reality is that chemically, somehow, our lack of connection and disconnecting from our baby. And a lot of times, like some mothers are trained, leave your baby in the cot and just let it cry. Once it cries out, it'll be all right, and it'll learn not to cry for your attention anymore.
Yeah, it's called controlled crying. Controlled crying.
This disconnection thing, yeah.
So there's a guy called Robin Grill, who's, I think he's written a bunch of books on parenting. His books are fantastic. Yeah. And one of the incredible subjects, which is really triggering to actually read, is about controlled crying. And so for people who don't know what controlled crying is, it's a very successful parenting practice that most of us are exposed to. Yeah. The further back you go, the more we're exposed to it. Especially if you think about, say, the baby boomers generation, our parents' generation, for example. Often there was big families after World War II, and that means that the parents didn't have enough time or space to actually give their children the attunement bonding they needed. So controlled crying was very normal for our parents, but they passed it on to us. A lot of these parenting practices are just passed on, really unconsciously. Yeah. Controlled crying means that you put a baby down to sleep by itself, and it might take 2 or 3 days of them just crying and crying and crying and crying, and then they fall asleep. And then after a few days, you do it, and they just go to sleep. And you think, great, I've just trained my baby to go put themselves to sleep. I'm a good parent. What actually is neurologically occurring for the baby now, with the sort of science we have access to, is showing that controlled crying is very detrimental for brain development when it comes to how we feel as an adult. So when a baby is put down to sleep in this way, their stress hormones are going up and up and up and up and up, because a baby shouldn't be going to sleep not in contact with a person. Because the way we evolved as a species means that if you're asleep, you want to be safe. As a baby, you can't defend yourself from other people or a predator or dangers. So being close to someone is really important. That's why the stress hormones happen. That's why they cry. I shouldn't be in this situation. That's why I'm crying. And let's finish this. The baby will actually activate their nervous system in a way which is parasympathetic, which is how we relax, but it activates in a very negative, extreme way, where the baby will knock themselves out to protect themselves from their own stress hormones.
From the awareness of that stress.
Yeah, that's right. They actually protect themselves from the hormones that are flooding their system. Cortisol will kill you, but slowly. So the baby needs to work in a way just to knock itself out, so it's not aware it's in a dangerous situation. Right. Yeah. So I'll read a quote here. This is from Dr. James W. Prescott at the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development in the United States. A secure psychophysiological body connection between mother and infant is the first foundation of love upon which all other love relationships are built. The human primate is the only mammal that separates the newborn and mother. and denies the newborn the succor of the mother's breasts. This separation violates the most universal of evolutionary principles. So when you're talking about the sort of swaddling in certain cultures where the baby is held on the body all the time, this is what babies need.
Yeah.
There are many indigenous cultures where this is, and not even the parents, someone.
Yeah.
Like in some Brazilian Amazonian cultures, the baby will only be put down to do its thing if it really, really wants it. Otherwise, it's kept on someone where they're often quite happy to go to sleep or wake up or breastfeed in the same space. Attunement therapy is based on this principle. So if you have had the amazing experience of having like a toddler, for example, and it's bedtime for them, and you read a story or something like that, and you go to sleep, they will want to be against your body, and whether you're carrying them or you're in bed with them while they go to sleep. Yeah. And you can experiment. You can just break contact a little bit, even when you think they're asleep, and they will grab your arm and put it back around you, or just move closer to you. Yeah. You can't break contact with them very easily while they're awake and have them go to sleep. They need that physical contact to totally relax and go into a natural, healthy sleep. So controlled crying, again, which most of us are exposed to, creates a habit in the brain where we feel we are alone in this world and we have to become hypervigilant. This means that we, these sorts of stress hormones that it creates and this imbalance in the nervous system when it comes to rest can lead to an adult life where our vagus nerve is not functioning properly. So the vagus nerve is responsible for digestion and all of our visceral organ functions. So if you're in a hypervigilant state, you can't relax in this way. This is why trauma and digestive health problems go hand in hand. Because trauma leaves you in a higher baseline activation of the sympathetic nervous system. That means that you're a bit stressed all the time, even when you're asleep, because you might be ready to wake up and defend yourself. So often trauma, in particular sexual trauma, you don't digest properly because the blood isn't in your gut properly. And this means that you can have more susceptibility to any kind of infection as well. And all the other things that go with digestive health issues, with that, when you're not processing food properly, that can lead to all kinds of other issues. The
thing that fascinates me is like the ancient cultures, like when you look at Ayurveda or Taoist, like tonic herbalism, they always talk about how the gut is related to your relationship with the outside world. And they obviously look at it from a perspective, humbly, from what I saw was like that's where the outside world is assimilated into your inside world. But at the same time, what you're describing now is also the relationship with like how our traumas are actually like biochemically related to that area of our body, and things are switching on and off.
That's right.
And so and I think that highlights something that you were trying to drive home, which is these are ancient understandings but missing in today's day and age. And something that I wanted to ask you before is, the idea that, we, on one hand, like epigenetics suggests that, or not suggests, but proves that, we are just, like our subconscious is consistently a set of switches that are on click, 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 on, off, 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 on, off, and not even like we're conscious about it. It's our parents being in our field and like literally those things just switching on and off to, like you said, mirror neurons to pick that up. The thing that is so notable for me at the moment, especially the way that, just to give you an example, I'm a podcaster and a mindfulness and meditation coach and an emotional intelligence trainer, right? Now, sure, they were a career for some people maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but now, what is a Facebook marketer? What is a social media strategist? Like these careers didn't exist 5 years ago.
Totally.
So the world that my parents geared me up for was I was either going to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, or a failure.
Right.
They did the best that they could, to put me forward for the world that they were built up in, right? But now the world that I've landed in is completely different to whatever they understood, and I can't point the finger and be like, they did the best with what they had. But my life experience is teaching me that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, there are going to be careers and technology is going to evolve the world around us to certain points that I won't even recognize it, right? And there's going to be different things to do, different ways to be of service. How, did my neuron, and this comes up again and again for me in a lot of the work that I do with people. I just ask the question sometimes is, did you stand a chance? Because we're all so quick to like berate ourselves. Like the internal dialogue for a lot of people is so negative. It's like, like I'm lazy, or I'm like this, and I don't really like that I do this, and I'm not really that constructive, or I'm like, yeah, but did you really stand a chance? It's like your epigenetics, your quantum like biology was set up in a certain way for a different world. And now you're here in 2018 and you have to learn to adapt and be dynamic and adopt mindsets that are fluid all the time. You look at like something really simple. When I grew up studying, and I'm sure it was much the same for you, retention of information was really valuable. Like going to a maths exam was like how well can you remember informations and facts and
how fast can you write?
Right? You know? And like now it's like that's all gone out the window because it's like, well, this remembers everything. How resourceful am I at using my tools? So now it's like resourcefulness is much more like imperative to memory. And different parts of our brains are changing based on that. And so the world that we're built for is very different to the world that we're actually in.
Yeah, man. I mean, one of the interesting things here as well is like looking at what our parents gave us, and some people go into quite a bit of anger and resentment as well for like how they understand things now and how their parents understood things in a different way. Like back to control crime, our parents thought that was groovy, and because of these scientific understandings now we go, but what's actually really simple is actually listening to what kids need.
Innately.
Listening to what babies need and holding that space. As much as we can as a well, self-regulating, peaceful, present, caring parent. So like doing that kind of work on ourselves to prepare if we want to be a parent, to treat our kids in a way that feels very natural for us. Where we're really tuning into their needs and holding space for them. Because when a kid's physical bonding, attunement needs are met, they're very groovy kids to be around. Because if they're not picked up enough or held enough or there's not co-sleeping, then this is going to express in different ways. Would it be, other forms of addiction that can happen with young kids, especially, screens and sugar and all these kinds of things, or media and advertising. It's really far out. It's an amazing thing. So, yeah, man, I'm really excited about this work, and it's an amazing modality. And if you like, we can talk a bit about like what attunement therapy is, because a lot of people just like they hear a bit about it, and it seems very radical. And one of the things I encourage people to do is to feel inside your nervous system with this information, because the more radical this seems to you,
let's talk about triggers.
The more radical this seems to you, the more you probably need it. Because when we resist things naturally, it's often because we don't want to be hurt again. So one of the really cool things is like there's different types of workshops out there around the place, and say one of the things that can come up is eye gazing, the sort of connection you get with people. And it's always funny, like if you're in a workshop and you talk about eye gazing, to notice how many people go, oh my god, and you go, oh, there's the door, anyone can leave now. And one of the things I like to consider is that the more resistant you feel to eye gazing with a stranger, the more that is something you need. Because generally, the idea of eye gazing or being held by a practitioner is if it seems alarming or dangerous to you, this means that the level of trust in your nervous system with human connection is waning. And the easiest way to fix this is human connection. So attunement therapy it's based on those principles of what babies need and how they need to be held, but we do it with adults. That seems crazy. It really does seem crazy. So a session with an attunement therapist means that you have about a 3-hour space. That way it's not rushed. The same with kids. You don't want to like put them down or break contact with them when they're not ready. Because for the way the biology of disconnection or loss works with children is that, oh, my dad's broken up with my mum and he's gone. It's because there's something wrong with me. Right? Children don't think if you're 3, you don't think my dad's got his own issues and some stuff going on and whatever. You don't think like that. You think there's something wrong with yourself. This means that if we have disconnected parenting, or just not being held or touched or engaged with enough, just have a laptop put in front of you, an iPad, whatever, that means that we think there's something wrong with ourselves. So we allow 3 hours for a session where we can tune in with someone's like an intention, what's happening in their life. It's very simple. What's going on for you? And it can just be stress and anxiety. Because the opposite of stress and anxiety is connection. And then what we do in a session, once we've gone through that, is we just sit in front of each other and just hold hands and eye gaze. And what this does is it gains an energetic rapport with the practitioner, where the person, any stress they have about connection can often come up and be diffused in that process. That will come up. And you'll notice with eye gazing, people start to relax more and more. And there's an experience in the body that occurs, which is very relaxing, and it's like a oneness experience where you kind of see yourself in the other person. And the reason this is so relaxing is because when we were in the womb, we were surrounded by the celestial
amniotic fluid
being that's providing all of our warmth and nourishment and safety, security. And we think it's us. It's just there. When babies are in the second 9 months of gestation, which is hopefully at least 9 months of breastfeeding, could be a couple of years of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is, so important for healthy development. And that closeness is the key here. So during breastfeeding, the baby's psyche relapses into being in the womb, where they actually don't know they're separate from their mum. So it's that sort of security and that sort of oneness experience. So when you feel completely one with and safe and connected to someone else, this allows the brain to do the healing and updating it needs to do. This is why if a baby runs into a wall and you're like, oh, that looked really painful, and they're crying, and their mum or dad picks them up, they just stop crying. And then they're like, okay, put me down 6 seconds later. And you're going, wow, that must have hurt. What happened? That connection makes them go, okay, cool, no, I'm sweet. And their brain automatically releases something called beta endorphins, which are natural pain-filling opiates that occur in the brain. If you don't get picked up enough when you're in stress as a kid, that means that you don't develop those neural pathways. So that means that people who don't have their attunement needs met physically as a kid don't develop the neural pathways for automatically de-stressing. So when you have an opiate from outside your own psychopharmacology, like heroin or oxytocin or morphine, these types of sedatives, alcohol can apply here too. That means that you experience a release and a sense of pleasure far beyond someone who has a healthy attunement beginning in their life. So the people who become addicted to these sorts of chemistry are people who weren't held enough. And the more we explore addiction, the more we can see it often comes from these very early fundamental times in life. The first 3 years usually rules our susceptibility to addictions to all kinds of things. The same with ADD. Like ADD it's where stress means that the brain develops in a way which is slightly out of whack. But not out of whack in the sense that it's bad. It's developing in a way that makes us really fast, really able to calculate, really aware of the environment, really vigilant, really strong. And we've got a special brain that goes with that strong body so we can do things. But, that means that you might, steal things or hurt someone because your ability to rationalize future consequences is out the door. This is why they say that most of the prison population is ADD, because they weren't able to rationalize consequences of what they're doing. And their strong subconscious faculties means that they often just, I want that, I want to do that, and they just do it. Impulsive. That's right. So that means that the prefrontal cortex didn't get developed properly because the blood wasn't there. As we know from cell biology, that when we're under stress, the blood vessels on this part of the brain constrict. So when it's a long-term stress, like children especially, we don't develop this part of the brain. ADD develops in the womb. If your mum's stressed, you experience her stress, or outside of the womb. So the really crazy thing about ADD is that what brings the brain to balance is a speedy-like drug, whether it's Ritalin or cocaine or crack or ice or speed. If you have ADD, these things allow you to chill out and focus. same with tobacco, same with coffee. This boosts the prefrontal cortex and it turns off all the other subconscious impulses and reduces them so you can focus and write an essay. This is why we have university students all around us who write epic essays on Ritalin. And this is really happening. Yeah. And one of the tricks in our culture is ice is cheaper than Ritalin. And it has a very debilitating effect on physical health, but it's more available. Yeah. So a lot of people smoke ice so they can chill. If you don't have ADD, these drugs will hype you up. Yeah. Because you don't need them to come to balance. So there's all sorts of things going on there, and so much of the time it comes from early child brain development.
I think that's somewhere that I want to go into next with you is actually acknowledging that perhaps there is something in your childhood that needs addressing, for me, and just to be, vulnerable and transparent, I still maintain to some part that, I had this incredible childhood. And, my parents were migrants and they did the best that they could. And man, they instilled some really epic values, like hard work, integrity, and just, some really cool, things that have really meant a lot to me over time. But also I've had, I was flogged a lot as a kid, let's just put it that way. And I remember justifying it to my friends in the future. It was like, my mother definitely loves me. Her mentality was just the harder she'll kick me, the further I'll go in life, Yeah. And now I look back and, I used to just laugh it off. And I think many of us do that. And I was reading some work by Alison Miller, the drama of The Gifted Child, really helped me take a moment to really pause and reflect on my childhood and just take a moment to perhaps acknowledge that actually, there have been some challenges in there. I'm having challenges as an adult all the time. What's to suggest that I wouldn't have had challenges as a child, But I think a lot of us, it's like a tap of awareness that will just turn off or something. For me, it was like that. It was just like childhood, moved on from that. Now I'm in the world doing things, and I never really looked back into it. Even though I had the awareness that, a lot of cultures say, I think it was the Jesuits, and they said, you show me the child up to the age of 7 and I'll show you the man, and similar to what you've been sharing, it's, I'm aware from all the meditation work that I do that there's different brainwave states that we're in. And we spend most of our, we as beings give the most premature birth of any mammal, right? So our kids are still in development. They're still in that delta wave state where they're still actually in hypnosis, but they're taking the world on in hypnosis. So this is all a hypnotherapy trip to them, but they're actually learning. And that's why they absorb everything like a sponge, because you're in that hypnotherapy state. That's why you can learn to quit in that hypnotherapy state, because it's so suggestive and so potent. And so you take that on from that state consistently, and then there's so much that's happening, and surely there would have been some things that were positive, and surely there were some things that could have been better. But for me, it was only recently that, I took a moment to go, actually, I've just sort of shelved it off as 75% of it was positive, my childhood was good, moving on, But then taking a moment to go, actually, there are some unresolved things. For me personally, I've lost a couple of people recently to death, my dog and a mentor of mine. And it really struck home, but some of it didn't land. And I was like, why didn't it really land? What's going on in here that I didn't really feel all of the emotional brunt of what happened? And I was like, actually, I'm kind of a little bit disconnected from the process of negative emotions. I don't think I'm really well equipped or geared to process negative emotions correctly. And correctly is an interesting way to use that, but to fully process things. And then I started reflecting on was I enabled to sort of have a negative response as a kid? And perhaps not, it was if you're acting out, it's get back in line. If you're doing something negative, get back in line, and it's and like you said, that's no fault of the parent. It's just what they were encouraged to do the same thing again and again and again. That's just handed down. But if you're feeling something negative, allowing the space to sort of go through that, sitting and pondering death and just allowing that process to happen, has been a massive transformation for me just over the last 2 or 3 months, but I've actually had to be vigilant and sit there with myself and not try to shrug it off and go back to like the jovial self that I know that can escape the negative emotions that need to be processed through my body. And that's come through awareness of like, actually, no, I'm still tight when people mention certain things, you know, like triggers and stuff. And so I think what I really want to get into is like, you know, we probably don't acknowledge stuff that has actually happened. And is that some form of protection mechanism?
Well, what's incredible about what you're saying is that sometimes we have these automatic habits of blocking these things out, right? It's just, this is what we do. One of the amazing things that occurs with attunement therapy is people suddenly have these things come up that are unreviewed, unresolved, once they're being held, right? So our ability to self-regulate emotion or not self-regulate emotion is often, some things just lay under the surface in our body until we're in the right environment, and then the body will automatically start to deal with it, because the nervous system is so intelligent that it wants to move energy out of the body and to come back into balance. But it's seeking the right environment to eventually do that. Often, for many of us, the right environment is completely misplaced. Like we might have a lot of closeness with our children and with our partner, but this sort of safe physical space where these things can come up, especially for men, where you can just be held by your partner and allow these things to come up. Because unfortunately we have a global male vulnerability deficit. This is where we are denying how we feel as men because we think it's attractive for a start, that it's sexy. And that we also, a lot of men, this is women too, let's talk about men, is that we feel that how we actually feel is a massive burden on other people. So we bottle it up and we try and do these solo healing missions, you know, these sort of extreme things. And I'm going to read a quote here from a client who had a attunement therapy session here in Melbourne. All my life, I've been searching for something really fucking angrily. Searching for something, not knowing what it is. Going from drugs to spiritual groups to avoiding people to everything outside myself, trying to find it inside myself. I could not find anything at all. And then realizing within 2 minutes of laying on Lauren's chest, Lauren is a therapist, that's what I was missing. I was missing that connection, that mother connection, that love that I never received. Now this guy was taken at birth into adoption by a nunnery, you know. He didn't get to lie on his mother's chest. He didn't get breastfed. He didn't get these things. And there was something missing. He didn't even know what it was because the loss he experienced is not cognitive memory. This is in his nervous system. So what's incredible about these sessions is the client will lie next to your body and you hold each other's arms and they put their head on your chest where they can hear your heartbeat. And this sound, this experience, whether it's electrical or it's a field, who knows? But when they can relax into the space, what happened in his session is he managed to get out a lot of the anger around what happened to him as a baby, and then being fostered out to different parents. He was able to process that, and then naturally came back into a balance during the session without any intervention of complete peace and atonement and forgiveness, where he experienced a memory, and he recreated a memory naturally where his biological mother was there, a part of his childhood, and so were his foster parents. And they were all there together, and there was a lot of peace and love. So what happens in a session is generally we hold people for 60 to 90 minutes. You get into the nice sort of comfy semi-reclined space. And what happens is people naturally go into this kind of hypnotic state, hypnagogic state, super conscious state. Whatever it is, we want to start doing live brain scanning with attunement therapy to see what's going on. Because the technology for this is quite available now. And to show that there's something very profound happening, because people, when you're holding them as well, you get someone who's got a trauma or a lot of stress. We have a thing called the 3 pillars of consent for a session. This means that someone needs to feel safe. It's like, come here, I'm going to hold you. You need to feel safe. And you also tune in like, I don't want anything from you. And you've got to be really clear with this, because a lot of people, physical connection, say women, physical connection might mean that whoever's holding you wants to be sexual with you.
It's a very loaded experience. Based on society.
This means that you're thinking about a future event where you have to provide or do something. Well, you're a man, and your wife comes up behind you and she's rubbing your shoulders, and you're like, oh, yeah. What does she want?
Yeah.
And she's like, you said you're going to paint the roof last month. I just wanted the shoulder massage. So for a lot of us, again, we're thinking about, what does this person want from me? Through physical touch. That means our ability to receive is quite impaired because we're thinking about a future event, which is a type of stress and anxiety.
Right.
The other thing is this expectation of some eureka, amazing result. If you're like thinking about this enlightenment, healing experience you're going to get, as well you're thinking about the future. So to let that go, to let go that to really understand that practitioner doesn't want anything from you. So the training for practitioners is quite specific in the sense that we are helping practitioners understand how we're entrained as a culture to have a hyper self-entitlement and hyper self-gratification, where through our, especially through the barrage of sexual media thrown at us, we come into a place where we want to experience these sort of sexual things, or entitlement as well. We live in a very entitled culture with a lot of abundance, which means we think we deserve all these things. However, to get the things we need, sometimes that we really think we deserve, means you need to almost commodify another person's body, to use their body to gratify yourself. And to look at that entrainment and to let all that go as a practitioner and to come into a parental energy. So this modality is really cool in the sense that it's parental. What does this infant need right now? Because you can hold someone and you really feel that they maybe are 2 years old. And they come out of the session going, I felt like I was 2 years old. Right? When you are holding your baby, right, you're just giving them what they need. You're not going to put them down until they're ready. You're just going to tune into where they need. They need some food. They need to be changed. Like, what's going on? Parental energy. What do they need? As a practitioner, they need to just be held. It's so simple. And people don't get this in our culture. Maybe in some families or close friendships. Yeah, awesome. But this is radical. So the whole intention here is to de-radicalize the sense of touch to where we don't even need to heal the modality. This modality can just delete itself once we normalize this kind of connection in our friendships and in our families, right? And in our relationships. Where you might be having a hard day or something stressing you out, and you actually know, or you're triggered by something in your past or a loss or a grief, and you can tune in with your partner and go, I just need you to hold me for a little bit. That's it. And where this becomes normal, right? So these sessions, what you find is many people have a bit too much stress and anxiety in their life. This is in the culture. And as you're holding them, after about 20 minutes, you notice something occurring in their body, which is really interesting. And the more you give sessions, the more you become sensitive in this way, they get heavier. Why do they get heavier? That means that their nervous system is activating in the rest and digest and heal function, which is called parasympathetic. This is the vagus nerve activating too, so it can do what it needs to do in the gut. And the reason they get heavier is because the blood is draining from their limbs, from their arms and legs, into their viscera, and you can feel them go, oh, and they kind of sink into you. And this is when you know that the magic's starting to happen. When this occurs, these, like you said, you've got some grief coming up, and these things you want to feel more, then the body will start to naturally feel these things because you're in a space where it's welcome. And the practitioner is not going to let you go. They're not going to reject you on the grounds that you've become emotional. You don't put down the baby because they're crying. You know, that's annoying. That doesn't work like that. And then they will go into shame and guilt and learn that is not welcome. And again, a lot of us do not express emotion because our parents might not have been able to cope with it during early infancy. Then they seem to go into this hypnotic state where they seem like they're asleep, but they're not. And what's really cool here is, as practitioners, we tune into their intention. You know, I don't feel safe in my life, for example, or I feel stressed and anxiety. I don't feel like I belong. And when they're in the state, you whisper in their ear positive affirmations. This is like post-hypnotic suggestion. You're really loved. You're really welcome here. You belong on this earth. You're a beautiful person. You know, you're a creative
being, and you have so much potential, and you're so welcome. These have a very profound effect because you are speaking directly into the subconscious nervous system. This means that these sorts of positive affirmations become the natural tape that's playing, as opposed to, I don't belong, or I'm ugly, or I'm lazy, these sorts of things. So the natural bliss of being a human is playing normally through your head.
Right.
This seems really radical. And the far out is, through one session, people are having these experiences. And sure, getting more than one session is good too. You can go deeper and deeper once you're familiar with the process. Like, the thing I just mentioned, this guy, this is 2 weeks after his session, he said, I'm a completely different person. Everything is different. I'm learning to be the new me because I felt this connection. This guy was, adopted out at birth. I felt this connection. I can use this in my future relationships. I want to share this connection with my partner. So now he's got all this drive to connect more with people and to share his experience. Not as a practitioner or anything like that, but to go, wow, I want to get a partner and I want to feel this closeness and this love, and with his children to feel that.
Which is inherently a normal thing.
Yeah, so we can look at the science of what he's experienced and say his availability of oxytocin is completely changed. That means that your drive to connect and the amount of reward and pleasure you get from connection is heightened. And the more you connect, the more this builds. And this is what it's like to be a normal human.
Right.
We want to connect. Yeah? So Gabor Maté says, we are wired for connection.
I just thought it was my highest value.
So we all wired for connection.
Everybody's highest value.
And if we were not wired for connection, then it wouldn't be stressful when we're disconnected.
Yeah.
It's really simple.
Yeah. So when you're talking about something simple, this is something that's just echoing in the back of my head. And we've been on the journey of an opportunity to heal for quite some time. And there's been a lot that you've explored, on the record, off the record. There's been a lot. We've gone all the way deep with Gabor Maté, we've explored Bruce Lipton, we've explored quantum physics, we've done epigenetics, we've done quantum biology, we've talked philosophy, psychology, you've even looked at, sacred sexual practices, all these random things, but really deep embedded cultures. And the thing that fascinates me now is that having walked, and this was the thing that I actually loved the most about, getting into these conversations, is that it was such deep conversations and we could go down any one rabbit hole and it'd just be we could still go deeper and we're running out of time. And the thing is that I think the thing that fascinated me the most is how after you went deep enough, you started realizing that everybody was kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
At a certain point. And the thing that I'm most in awe of in this moment is that actually out of all of that, the truth is always simple. And what you come up with is, yes, it may have, I'm not even sure if it's that triggering, but maybe I'm a bit more open to it. But it is really simple.
It's really simple. I mean, the hilarious thing really is that I've been researching for 13 years. I've been specifically working.
Glad you can see the humor in it after all this.
That's a lot of information.
A lot of information.
A lot of books. A lot of stuff, man.
Yeah.
And the far out thing is that I was working mostly, with that research as a trauma therapist, and then moving more into counselling and coaching, sexuality, this sort of thing, holding space for whatever's coming up for someone. And the reason I got into trauma so much, and specifically sexual trauma, is I could see that this was the main thing holding a culture back. Because of the way it holographically affects so many people. A damaged person can go out and damage 10 more people. So we have this exponential trauma. Whereas someone who's in love with life can go out and share that love with 10 more people. So it can go exponentially either way. All the things you just mentioned, all these kind of areas of research, whether it be epigenetics or cell biology, brain development, quantum medicine, quantum physics, epigenetics, this all applies to attunement therapy. So I've created a very groovy, succinct practitioner training manual where we bring in a lot of this data and see how just holding someone can upregulate their epigenetics, change their hormonal makeup, change their view of their past, quantum medicine, this sort of thing. And it's really, really, really cosmic. And one of the other areas, when it comes to like ethics and integrity and philosophy and this sort of thing, like what it means to be a human, this is also a very important aspect of understanding what we're bringing to the table as a person.
Where did all this click in together for you from the opportunity to heal to then having attunement therapy come in to drop? Like, whose chest were you lying on? And what was the drop-in moment that this was actually, like, I know we've often in previous episodes talked about connection and lack of connection, and how, like even the whole essence of, I remember the first podcast, the biggest takeaway for me personally was all about competition and how that disconnection is just breeding, like all this dis-ease in society. And it's obviously now it's coming full circle to the connection. And where did this really drop in and anchor into becoming, what was the founding moment? Was there an aha moment?
Well, a lot of the research I've done has led up to this without me knowing that it was happening.
Of course.
Yeah. And I've been playing around with the subject a bit in my kind of private mind chatter because I lacked some of the essential principles to be sharing this. And to try and how do we make a healing modality like this come to be in a way that is safe and that can grow and that is easy to learn. So a lot of those, I was in Bali 3 months this year, and I did a lot of the more succinct research and writing about attunement therapy.
Sure.
At the same time, I was connecting with this practitioner friend here in Melbourne, Lauren Zuckerman. She's down just south of St Kilda, and she's like a counsellor and coach, and similar kind of background as me.
Sure.
And she works in singing as well, gives singing lessons, yoga lessons, this sort of thing. And she was having these intuitive kind of ideas around holding people more. And something I shared online really caught her attention around this subject. She got in touch with me and said, look, I want to start doing this. I'm like, well, this is exactly what I'm writing right now. So we developed these principles around how to give sessions, and she just started giving sessions. And everything that I was hypothesizing that would occur in a session was happening straight away in sessions. And we were like, what? Okay, far out. And one of the really interesting documents that we got that really put us on this level was one of her clients had long-term addiction, stress and anxiety, had lots of money and all these sort of things, lots of failed marriages, and just very anxious kind of mind. And he had the experience of lying on his girlfriend's chest, where he wrote about it really clearly in an amazing way, where all the kind of chatter and anxiety and stress just turned off, and he lost a sense of time and space, and had a very relaxing moment. He can't remember ever having a moment like that in his life. And we're like, okay, there's so much information came in from different angles of like flashing lights. Hey, yo, and the kind of some of there's eureka moments like that. But reading all of Gabor Mate's books was really interesting because him and a lot of other writers are talking about the long-term effect of these types of this lacking we had sometimes in our early childhood from types of parenting that are very normal. And where in some cultures where kids are swallowed a lot and held on the body, these issues don't exist for them, So we live in a culture which I've also been aware that I teach workshops on what I call the global male vulnerability deficit, also what I call the corrupt guru, which is about a system of misogyny all around us, so just hatred towards women, which is normalized. And a lot of these sort of things I've been aware of. But in particular, reading these books by these older doctors and scientists, a lot of them come from this kind of stoic 1950s kind of upbringing where their parents were too busy to give them the attunement needs they need. But they're such smart people that they realised what they didn't get and have written a lot about it and realised Gabor Mate in particular worked in palliative care. This is people who are dying. And they know they're dying. There's nothing else that can be done. And he would interview them as their doctor, like, what happened in your life? To try and understand what causes certain illnesses. And he wrote a book where he started to map out the emotional profiles of, say, breast cancer, for example, or testicular cancer, or rheumatoid arthritis, or ankylosing spondylitis. And a lot of these things
here as well, things like Alzheimer's too. We're talking about autoimmune diseases. This is where the immune system is attacking the body. But these are caused by stress. These are caused by disconnection. The interesting thing about the emotional profiles is, say, women with breast cancer are often putting the needs of other people close to them first.
Right.
So he found by interviewing a woman dying with breast cancer, then interviewing another teen or 50, that what they were saying was quite similar about their life story. There's a pattern. So they're talking about this disconnection. And none of them really talk about a solution
to reconnect
that isn't just a talking therapy or a meditation. Or it's often something you do on your own. We'll lead you through a meditation or a process, and we say, we're not going to touch you. And there's all these issues around touch when it comes to oversight and ethics, integrity, consent, and legal stuff, legal issues. So a lot of people want to protect their credentials, protect themselves as a person by not talking about these things.
So would you say that for you the benefits are so much more so important that it's like if we can just knock the ethics out and get that solid, there are a myriad of benefits. It's just a world of ways for us.
And that's what I've been working on, because we are so lucky to have this incredible access to all this research of these incredible people, whether it be through the internet or through books, through video. We have access to all this information, but the younger generations, we don't quite have the same foundation of these older doctors and researchers. That means that we can look at things with a more radical mind. But it's only radical to them. And to re-normalize things that are actually fundamental human needs. So I'm aware of how much resistance there is in, say, the mainstream medical model, for example, or in, say, some of the religious models, or just different societal models where we see independence and hypervigilance as a virtue. And it is a virtue in a hostile culture. But we are living in a culture which is actually very safe and abundant. We have what we need, which means more. Which means we have the option to evolve emotionally, evolve spiritually, evolve physically, to become healthier beings. So we have what we need, but unfortunately we've inherited some of these really redundant ideas around disconnection as a virtue. Like this stoic means like not having emotion. If you're going to be a good soldier or a good person working in forestry, you don't want to feel the finite nature of an old growth forest in Tasmania if you're chopping down trees. If you can really feel the fact that you're chopping down an old tree that's going to take thousands of years to regrow, you're not going to be able to work properly. So you need to shut down the emotional parts of yourself to be able to work in that industry or to even own that industry. It's the same for a lot of corporate military things, fisheries, agriculture. In New Zealand at the moment, the money that people are getting from dairy means that dairy farming is expanded in such a way which is polluting. New Zealand's supposed to be this clean, green
green place.
But the waterways are being polluted by cattle farming in a really dangerous way. But it makes so much money. So you need to be disconnected in a certain manner to be a healthy, happy dairy farmer, disconnected from your connection to the earth. So we are young and radical. We're able to look at things with a new perspective. Like there was these children the other week, walking out of school and protesting at the government about the government's lack of understanding. Lack of understanding. These are kids. The government's lack of understanding of the environmental collapse of the planet. And then, because these people, they just block it out. The politicians in there, their cognitive dissonance, their ignorance, their willful ignorance, don't want to know, because the corporate money situation is what really keeps the political structure afloat, because there's lots of fingers and lots of different pies. So
This is why, these Adani, Abbott Point, all these sorts of extreme versions of environmental pillaging and rape of Australia is happening because you have to be disconnected on a certain level to support it. Yeah? Like, we don't need to build a big coal mine to sell coal to India.
Yeah.
We don't. But some people make a lot of money from that.
Yeah.
We don't need to burn coal to make electricity. No. But if you are of this old mindset, you got to look at most of the politicians making the big decisions. These are older people. Yeah. And these are the sort of people who are keeping society functioning a certain way. So we are numb enough to chop down trees. We are numb enough to invest in a uranium mine or a coal mine, this sort of thing. We are numb enough to ignore the fact that Great Barrier Reef is dying, at the moment. So for me, these eureka moments is like looking at this information going, what's missing here?
Yeah.
What's missing? And the more you look at the principles of attunement therapy, I'm not making anything up.
Yes.
I'm just looking at human need and going, well, here's a modality which is easy to learn, and it's quite simple. It's really quite simple. And to go, this can bring so much reconnection, where someone can have a session and then they are sharing, like this guy said, testimony, I want to share this connection with others, where this can go out, this reconnection, where we are not just connecting with other people more, but we're connecting more with nature. Yeah, and what we need to do as a person to kind of step up and to bring change.
I think that's the part that's most fascinating to me in this conversation is that we've discussed so many things on so many different scales before. It's like we've obviously discussed inner trauma, we've obviously discussed the plight of the planet, we've talked about consumerism, we've talked about capitalism, we've talked about different philosophies, modalities, and all these different things, which are very out there, and some of them are like mega, and some of them are minor. But it is all distilled down into the human's relationship through their own childhood and nurturing and that inner child. Which I find most fascinating about this conversation is that actually if we can find a way to connect to ourselves and heal that aspect of ourselves, everything else kind of trickles from there. And there's this quote that I'm this close to getting tattooed on myself, but I probably won't get a tattoo, which is go within or go without. It comes back to that again and again.
My friend says the only way out is in.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good Russell Brand interview where he interviews Gabor Mate. He's really an expert on the way people's childhood is expressing through the adult. And they're talking about Donald Trump and some of his political decisions, ideals, and the way he treats people actually stemmed from the way he was brought up by his parents. And it's very clear, I would say pathology, but it's a very clear chemistry or equation which can create a
cause and effect.
A sociopathic leader who is making decisions and also casting out his people around him as well. It's like, just firing people who are supporting him as best they can. And it's amazing to see how so many people are trying to seek power from a sense of needing to feel safe. And going back to where that lack of safety comes from, or that lower sense of self-worth, can come from. So they seek these particular positions of power as a sense of security in a peaceful environment.
So the question I have for you there then is like, if we, let's say, attunement therapy becomes mainstream tomorrow and more people are growing up attuned, let's put it that way, these people are fundamentally, once again, less likely to be the ones that are seeking power.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's still that model where those that are in power are fundamentally the ones that are looking for power, which are fundamentally the ones that you don't necessarily want in power.
Well, imagine a political system where the people, and this is the same in some tribal political systems, particularly if you look at the First Nations people of North America, like the Iroquois Confederation. This is a very complex political system where who's the guy who flew the kite with the key and the electricity, one of the founding fathers of the United States, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
He actually studied the system of the Iroquois Confederation of Nations and used their political system to map out how the United States of America would work politically. They copied it off him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So these different types of leadership, one of the things that was different is often in these kinds of nations, the people in charge, these chiefs, would be not seeking the position.
Yeah.
They would be nominated and voted in.
Yeah.
Imagine a political system where someone knocks on your door one day and said, "We've all done a vote and you're Prime Minister for the next year." And we know you're not seeking this position.
Which is why
we elected you. Yeah. So you're not doing it you're not aspiring for the self-gain or this power or money or control. A political system where someone is there because of who they are, not as a leader. Yeah. So hopefully we talked about Russell Brand and revolutions kind of thing. Hopefully our political system evolves in a way where we start to, like you look at the Dalai Lama. He's not trying to be the Dalai Lama.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why he's so revered. Yeah. So change like this would be amazing. And I think that there's more and more young radical people stepping into politics. And it's changing slowly. Like there's a new congressman in the United States, and she did like a music video with their mates at university, and she's dancing around this building and stuff like that. The opposition, the conservatives, shared this video to try and portray her as like inappropriate to be a congresswoman because she's dancing around. Yeah. Where you have people who might have. There's another woman in politics where she posed for Playboy, like in the 80s, and they're trying to say that means she can't be a politician.
She's morally corrupt now.
So as you can see, there's an evolution where those women are happy in their bodies and in their sexualities, and they are also politicians, and that there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And that this old mindset of original sin, you're actually directing these intense Christian ideals really at people around their body and corruption.
Right.
And these things are actually dying out one old grumpy politician at a time. And more, this new generation, whether anyone likes it or not, is more radical. So the political system might not change the speed we want it to, but the more young people with new ideas who are sharing these ideas and are getting voted in, we're getting this slow change. And hopefully this change happens fast enough for the natural environment. Because these are the people we need who are sensitive enough to make the right decisions. One quick fix would be all world leaders to become women. Like tomorrow. Because women are naturally more, for the most part, naturally more in tune with their connection to all things. Because men have been conditioned to become more hard and stoic.
So does that sort of reflect that with attunement, obviously the mothers, are they more aware of connection, or are they cultivating more connection through that process as well?
Mothers have a huge advantage through the sense of
chemistry.
Yeah, but the experience of selflessness. Where if they abandon this baby, it's going to have a far less happy outlook on life, even if the baby doesn't remember the event. Because these come through the nervous system physiology, where she needs to give selflessly, whether it be with her time and energy and food, and to be pregnant, to give birth, all these sorts of things. So often women, because men don't really need to be present for much of it, So women often have a higher sense of selflessness as a being who's giving to everything around her. Men can be like this too, but often mothers have a totally different advantage.
What you're sharing with me makes me laugh, because I had a really good chat with my really dear friend of mine. Her name's Amal, and she's about to have her second child, and my girlfriend was talking to her, and she was talking about motherhood and how is it, and I went over to their place and just watching her interact with her kid, like she's talking to me just like we are. Meanwhile, she's changing a diaper. She's completely present in the conversation, but she's changing a diaper and nursing a bed, like completely present, but also like connected to this thing. It's not even like outside of her. It's like she's tending to herself almost, right? And I'm just watching her, and I'm like, oh, like in my peripheral, I'm like, wow, this is like a massive change from the friend that I had that was unattached to any like other being. But at the same time, she was completely herself. So I'm just watching this, and then Kay's, my girlfriend, she's turned around and she's asked, like, tell me about, like, motherhood, is it challenging? And she's like, absolutely, it's got its challenges, you know, but the rewards are, like, you know, absolutely there as well. And they started somehow in the conversation, it came up as, don't you reckon the men should do more? This is where I started laughing. Because she goes, they couldn't.
Sorry?
She goes, they couldn't. Like, there's just a strength in a mother that is the mother's strength, you know. And in that moment, I just happened to be privy to that conversation, and there was just so much gnosis in what she was saying that it just, I realized, you know, just the power of, like, what it means to be a woman and to go through giving birth and losing all your sleep and breastfeeding and going through that, and just what it means to be a man, and, you know, like, how those roles are so, because I think even in today's society there's a lot of, you know, and I'm kind of going off topic here, but at the same time, like, there's all this, like, gender equality for some part definitely is necessary in terms of we should earn the same and this and that sort of stuff, but there are certain things that over time we have cultivated that men are better at certain things and women are better at certain things, like just watching my friend and just the strength that she has to raise two children, and just realizing within myself that actually that takes a different capacity of strength that I'm not completely aware of. You know, push comes to shove, humans are capable of amazing things, but at the same time, her innate nature as a strong woman is something that is not innately mine. You know, that fascinates me.
It's very special to be a father and to tune in to how you can support her.
That process,
Yeah, and this is so important when it comes to the sort of stress that a mother can go through and how this can be passed on to her baby while she's pregnant or in any of the early years or while that child is in your life. And to look at, there's some things that she can do as a mother that you can't do. But how can you support her with those things?
There are things that you can do that she obviously is not available to.
So it's so important to see how the loving presence and availability of men as fathers to support the mother of their children, or if you're a stepdad, to really tune into what she needs, because there's too many single mothers in our culture, and it's being a mum's hard. You know, we have a pretty good welfare system for single parents in Australia, but in the United States, where there's a lot of single, for example. There's a lot of single mothers who have to work a lot, who are not actually able to be physically present in their children's life enough because of lack of money. So we are lucky here in that sense. The government does a bit. It could do more to support single parents. But for men, it's very special to learn about your role as a man by having children and to really support women in any way they need. Really, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need right now? And to hold that space and to realize that reducing her stress, whether it's helping get the baby to sleep and cooking and cleaning and all these different things around the house and being present with your children as well so she can have breaks and all this sort of thing. It's really important because too many women are just left to do all the parenting. And this is another societal issue where men are having to work too much. The economic system doesn't really flow very well with how present we need to be with children for a proper attunement need to take place.
Yeah, and there's cultures in like Scandinavia where men are like now being forced to take a certain amount of time off after they're giving birth, actually or now back at work for like they have to take over their first 2 years, they have to take 7 months off.
Yep.
This
is the culture that financially supports that. This is also a culture that's more aware of the sort of child brain development that creates healthy adults for the wellness of the earth and the wellness of that nation. So there's a lot we can learn from each other, and particularly the easiest way to do this is to actually more tune into indigenous cultures that don't have the diseases we have emotionally and physically, because the way they raise children is a lot more imbalanced. There's indigenous cultures where the parents are often at a good working age when they have children. So a lot of the needs of the babies are provided for by the grandparents. The parents are around, but the family unit is supporting children in a way that we're not used to, because we all live separate from each other, and it's very beautiful to have, if you have children, to be in close proximity, if you can, to your parents, to support each other. And this is what produces the most healthy adults.
Yeah, and it sounds almost radical what you're suggesting, but that was the reality for my parents.
Yeah.
In India, you lived in your granddad's house.
Yeah.
You didn't live in your dad's house. And then basically when his children were ready to become grandparents, they moved out and got their own place, and now they were grandparents. Their kids had kids, and there was 3 generations living under the same roof.
Same with the kind of in Bali. If you go into a family compound, let's say, they might have some room to rent out that you'll have maybe 4 generations. And this has been our home for 10 generations. They're all there together, and these things are just completely normal.
Yeah.
And what we do is radical to them when they hear about the way we parent.
Yeah, the separation is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So this kind of trickles in for me into the next sort of thing, which is also I've been pondering, because I guess now a lot of the work I've been doing is education. And I've also been looking at how education, the way we're set up for education is based on, an industrial society. And so obviously we needed, you're obviously probably aware of this, but we set up schools because kids were better workers than adults, and the adults weren't getting employed because the kids were taking all the adults' jobs. And so we put them in schools so they could not take the blue-collar jobs, and they became more white-collar oriented. And society actually developed as a byproduct of it, which is great. But we've still got the same schools, but now we're more white-collared, and so we were training people for blue-collared, subservience, yes, I can, sit still, But society's evolving now into the world that we have now, and education still isn't evolving, And so the quote that I've been listening to a lot is, "It takes a village to raise a child."
Exactly.
And that it's been present in this conversation, obviously, holding the child. And then I'm also curious as to what the education, then sort of looks like as well, because you learn from everybody. What does delocalized tribal-esque neo-tribal learning look like? It's I'm just literally thinking as I'm speaking right now, but let's say we all lived in a suburb, and then every day of the week someone in the suburb taught the kids what their expertise was. So an engineer would teach maths and physics, and then someone else, and schools would be localized. And you'd be interacting with your kids all the time. And there are so many different models of education that are available to kids, that I find it fascinating for myself that actually that same mentor that recently died, she homeschooled her kids, and her kids are amazing, amazingly talented and gifted. And for me, growing up in normal private school education and understanding, I just assumed that those that were homeschooled were held back, because it's what could you possibly learn when I've got these resources that have been well paid for? But the reality is these kids are amazing. And it's actually homeschooling might be better than a private school education, but we're led to believe alternatively. So I ponder, when we also start hearing our relationships with ourselves, how we start teaching and learning and growing amongst each other as well.
I mean, we talked about this in the past, where the mainstream education system promotes a lot of competition. Whether it be
I thrived on that.
with exams or sports or competing against other schools, all this competition
rivalry
to prime you for a sociopathic economic environment where you are really competing and you want to see the downfall of your competitors who are competing in the same market to thrive, and through this whole scarcity construct. So, I mean, it's a big barrel monkeys, the education system, and I think one of the main themes that I can see here is that a lot of people want to become school teachers. A lot of my friends have become school teachers, and a lot of my best school teachers when I was a kid also have quit school teaching early. And the thing that keeps coming up is that they get a bit sick and tired of what they have to teach. These sorts of rules in the curriculum and the sort of oversight that comes from the education department around what they are teaching. And that they decide that it's not fluid enough and that they don't want to take part in that and they go get a different type of career. It's a scary thing. But we can look at Scandinavia, we can look at different types of education systems which promote more of a reconnection to nature, and I think that's one of the big keys. And education systems which promote a lot more creativity, like the Steiner education model, that sort of thing. And there's an evolution happening, but it's going to take a major political change to see a real overhaul of our education system.
Right.
In New Zealand, the new Prime Minister just totally overhauled a massive part of the high school education system, just deleted it. She said it's just that was one of her political promises, was going to get rid of that. And it was one of these kind of certification kind of exam systems that was just ridiculous and created so much stress and kind of hierarchy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just delete. Yeah. And, she's making huge changes. She's, one of the youngest female political leaders in the world, and she also gave birth in office. And her partner is the primary caregiver.
Yeah, wow.
So we are getting these changes. We are, it's really, really cool that this is happening in politics. And, someone even said, let's make her an Australian citizen so she can be Prime Minister of both countries. I was in New Zealand recently and I turned on
there is no more box to think outside and we're just going all the way.
I was in New Zealand recently and I turned on the radio and she was DJing. This is the sort of change it's like we need to see, like Austin, the Prime Minister's DJing on the radio. Cool, why not? Why not? So these changes are happening, and like back with human therapy, it's a growing thing, and it's a real groovy way to help reconnect people to what really matters. So. At the moment, I've just been teaching in Perth. I've just been teaching in Byron Bay. And it's a 4-day course. And at the moment, I'm booked here in Melbourne to teach from the 1st to the 4th of March. Back in Perth, Perth's amazing. I mean, the appetite for the new over there is really special, really incredible. And so back to Perth, Perth is the 14th to the 17th of March. And Adelaide is coming up too. That's the 5th to the 8th of April.
Nice.
I only take a small group of students at once. So one of my roles here is to really tune in with people and to make sure that they are ready to share this healing modality, that they can hold space and not re-perpetuate someone's traumas or issues or to make things worse or create trauma that wasn't there in the first place. So I can really tune in with someone's abilities by having a small group of students at each time. I mean, they give sessions to each other, and what's amazing about these students is they come along as well with some of their own issues, of course, and have these incredible breakthroughs just by having sessions in the training. Going, well, I've had a long-term anxiety issue that just is now switched off. So the results we're getting from the students is really, really incredible. And like I said, I'm teaching around the world this year, that sort of thing, and it's important to have really clear, integral teachers of this modality. Someone asked me to make it into an online course. And it would never work because we really need to tune in with people to make sure we can see where you're at with yourself. Because one of the main principles here is if you want to give attunement therapy for your own sense of lack, your own need for connection, it's not going to work. It's the same thing, like you can't look after a baby properly because of your own sense of lack. Like, this baby really needs me, it's making me feel better about myself. It doesn't quite work like that, So there's a selfless element where you really just tune in to what your client needs and to set that space up just for them.
Awesome. What excites you about the next 3 years the most?
Oh man. Traveling, and totally, this is, for me, this is really my element to kind of hand over these tools and to see how excited people get about it. People are really excited about this healing modality, and to just kind of hand over it's really interesting to hand over the permission to work with human touch in this way, and just go, here you go. Go for it. And for people to have such simple tools to help people in such a profound way, because, like I said, some people, we've had clients who haven't been touched for 13 years. So to be held in this way is so rejuvenating. Why do you think that so many cultures know to put someone in isolation to punish them?
Yeah.
In prisons, in schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people have been marooned on desert islands and stuff like that, they go mad because there's no other people. Because we are wired for connection. Okay? So for me, it's so exciting to hand over the car keys in this way. Here you go for it. So for me, it's so special to feel like I have come into touch with the slipstream, touch the key, whatever you want to call it, where teaching this way is very easy and natural, and it's very coherent information where people go, oh, of course, it's also obvious.
Yeah.
But because it's such a taboo area, we can get a bit like, whoa, around this information. But in us, we innately know we need to hold each other.
Beyond the mind.
Yeah. So helping people see that and feel that, all right, here you go. So it's, to me, it's a very incredible thing to feel like you've come to touch with your purpose on the earth. It's very lucky. Like people say, like if you really fall in love with your life, you're very lucky to really experience deep love and connection. Yeah. So for me, to come into this alignment where I feel like this is it, like, and I'm 33. Yeah. So to come into touch with this now, I feel very lucky. And there's a lot of circumstances which have just occurred, that have just happened to me at this moment. So it's all fate or luck or whatever it is that this is happening the way it is, And like I've worked a lot in hospitality. Yeah. And after a while, I didn't know what I was doing there. Especially being exposed to some of the waste in the hedonistic self-gratification of consumption in our culture, particularly in high-end hospitality. Yeah. And the waste, whether it's wine bottles or uneaten food, and to become quite disturbed by being exposed to that all the time. But then realizing why have I been in hospitality for years? And it's to understand people more and more. You're dealing with hundreds of people a day, all the time, whether it be your colleagues or whether it be just different types of people who come to cafes and restaurants, and to more and more be able to get a snapshot of culture. What's going on? Yeah. What makes people happy? What doesn't make people happy? What are the sort of neuroses that are occurring? And to see that this has primed me for some of the things I'm doing now. Like when I was a lot younger, we get shy and this kind of thing with different types of people. If you work in an industry where you deal with a lot of people, you become good at learning to connect with all kinds of different people. And this is where this has become very valuable with teaching and giving counselling sessions or whatever it is, holding people, and to have that access to culture. It's an amazing thing. So, all the people out there in hospitality are really in touch with what's going on, and to work in the hospitality industry is hard. The money's not very good. But to do it from a place of love and to be of service is a very magical space to be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I went to Little or Anything, where the people they're serving volunteers. It's awesome. What it gives their spiritual, energetic foundation just to be of service, just to go and take care of people and bring them food. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a restaurant. Service industry. And I think especially with that very wrong line, it's like the ability to have range with your interactions with human beings and the diaspora of emotions that comes with that and interactions is really good. So I would almost want to ask you, what's the book that you'd be recommending now? But I think there's no book that's about going out and and dropping in. I think we've read enough this kind
enough information.
Take the time to maybe experience human connection. So what would be a prescription for those at home, perhaps with a partner, to take some time out to connect with them?
Well, just in general, I think to renormalize non-sexual physical touch. these sorts of cuddles or holding hands, whether it's with your partner, your friends, or your kids, to see this as a fundamental need of all of you to be healthy.
Yeah.
This is normal. To become more and more hard and more separate is not a virtue for a long life. You can do it. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
But to normalize holding each other, being in physical contact, especially with your kids.
Yeah.
You don't need to harden your children. It's just ideal. You need to harden our young boys, by sending them to play rugby or footy or whatever, boarding school, be good for them, send them to military academy, whatever, So this sort of gentleness and closeness is something to really look at and to cultivate in our lives. And for people who find that too radical, an attunement therapy session is a great way to put you back in touch with that knowing. And as well for people who think they have the the foundation to hold the space, to really think about tuning with me and signing up for a training. And especially people who already have a counseling, coaching, whether it be psychology or psychotherapy or psychiatry, or if you're a nurse or if you work in aged care or work in different departments, or if you're just a parent or a partner, to just do the training as well, because the principles that even if you don't want to be a therapist, the principles that of attunement therapy is so valuable when it comes to walking the talk, when it comes to ethics and integrity and what you bring to the planet. So I really recommend people, if you're already a therapist, to kind of put this in your toolbox. It's a very special thing. And down the track, there could be all kinds of ways this therapy could be used in conjunction with hypnosis, psychotherapy, somatic experiencing. But one of the really interesting, exciting areas for me is rehab, where you can really speed up the rehab process if you're being helped. If you go to a rehab clinic, there's 10 people, there's 10 beds, 10 people there that you're held every day. This would totally transform and speed up the whole process. But we need to de-radicalize this whole concept in the mainstream kind of mindset. And that's the mission. So, and that's why we're talking a lot of science here. Because science is the way to
gateway language.
It's the way to break through to these different belief systems or disbelief systems, to really show that the research is there. We have the information and we're getting these results. The idea is we have more and more practitioners getting more and more sessions, so we're getting more and more of this kind of clinical data that we can go, wow, look, all these people had, chronic depression or chronic stress, or, let's say you have something like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, these sorts of ulcerations of the digestive tract, which are caused by cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. If you can see that attunement therapy as a very simple way of reducing stress and anxiety in your life, to reduce the symptoms or the actual manifestation of these sorts of ulcerations in the gut. So there's all kinds of illnesses caused by stress hormones. And that's a really, if we get enough clinical data and go, wow, this is a really good solution for these different ailments, whatever they are. So the idea there is to build the medical model for attunement therapy through more and more data. And so it's a very exciting modality for someone to learn, because giving a session is a very beautiful experience. Whether you're a parent or not a parent, to hold someone and just to allow them to go through the process they need to go through automatically, and to witness the changes they experience and how much, I'm sure if it's love or healing, whatever, but basically how much you're offering them and how this can really help their life in so many ways. And you just held them. You just held them. And to realize that as well, the more sessions you get, the more you come into a sense of belonging in yourself. It's like there's all these kind of side effects of holding people where you become more and more at home in your body and at home in the planet, and more peaceful. And your self-worth just grows and grows and grows because you're getting back in touch with something that's just so normal. Innate.
Yeah.
So when you're holding space with people like this way, and say it's your job, this is cosmic. This is cosmic. This is a very, very special thing. So I really encourage people to do more research on this sort of thing. Like we have a Facebook page, Attunement Therapy Facebook, it's better. You can also get in touch with our training links through that. Our Instagram page is filled with awesome information, and we're launching the attunementtherapy.com website as we speak. So check that out. All the information's there, and more and more, videos, interviews, more and more information like this. Yeah. It's all available there. So.
And I highly encourage you all to check out the YouTube videos that you put out as well. The content that you have delivered on YouTube is second to none in my humble opinion. There's a lot of amazing research and work that you've done, and found a way to confidently share, within your eyes, a lot of deep thoughts and aspects to a lot of many different things to really bring them into useful philosophy and share them with the world. So I really, really value those. If we could erect a billboard in Times Square, New York, and Tristan could say one thing on that billboard with all that energy of Times Square, New York, what would you say?
Hold me. You've got to actually do it.
Very fitting.
A lot of these concepts are interesting because we get to talk about it. We talk about it.
But you need to experience it.
There's the doing aspect. Like what you said, what's the next focus?
Yes.
We don't need more research.
Let's go do it.
Yeah, let's reconnect. Yeah.
And my last question is beyond attunement therapy, beyond skin suit, beyond this podcast, beyond the conversation, beyond nature. Who is Tristan? Who is Tristan?
Who is Tristan? Oh man, I feel like I'm like a conduit. Like there's people like, where did you come up with these ideas? I don't know. I don't know, and they're not just ideas, because people hear about this stuff and they're like, oh yeah, totally, it's obvious. And I feel like I'm an open vessel, and these things are coming through. This is coming through right now. And to be honest, this whole idea of attunement therapy, reconnection, everything like that, it's coming through a lot of people at the same time. Our global community is ready for this now. And I am one of the people this is coming through. This whole idea. This is emerging all over the world right now. And this is just one avenue for it. Yeah, so it's, to me, it's becoming more and more sensitive. I do live in the rainforest. So coming to Melbourne, I'm like, wow. So one of the fortunate or unfortunate aspects of living in nature, with as little electricity in your life as you can manage, and let's say you do become more sensitive, which means that ideas, concepts, creativity will come through you more and more. So there's more and more people like that in our culture who are becoming sensitive in a really useful way, and sharing what comes through them, and walking the talk, and doing what you say you're going to do. And it's very special to come into touch with that. And that's we're experiencing explosion of creativity in our culture, and that's what happens when we really start to tune into to ourselves, to our consciousness in our body beyond the mind.
Exciting times ahead. I really want to thank you, bro, for making the time and the energy to come down. Obviously, you're in Melbourne, but the opportunity to be here today and actually have a podcast in person. I love these chats with you. As always, I want to express gratitude to all the work that comes into the present moment. It's not just you drop in here and but obviously all the even just for example just the temperance and the awareness that it takes to just be the person that is holding space for something that is so innate but is not mainstream. That takes a certain level of courage and persistence and a value system that is perhaps a little bit outside of the norm, but really valuable for society. So I really want to thank you for the space you're holding for all of us. And as always, wishing you all the best for everything that's coming forward. And yeah, so for those that want to tune in, is the website the best way, or is Facebook the best way?
The website's launching now.
Yep.
So if the website does not open, it's going to be open soon. The best way to tune with me is through the Attunement Therapy page on Facebook.
Perfect.
Or you can get me at opportunity@gmail.com.
Yep.
So if you want to book a place in one of the trainings, it doesn't matter. You can contact me through Facebook, through the Attunement Therapy page, or my email.
Yeah.
Both are good. I'm there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your blessings here.
And thank you, man. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me here. This is a beautiful experience, and it's great to be here in person. I really appreciate your support, and I feel very inspired, and I'm evolving. Positive.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Love of the Inspired Evolution and sharing the Love of the Inspired Evolution. If you feel like this content has supported you or may support anyone else that you know may resonate with the content of it, please share away and share the love around. Thank you guys so much. And to stay up to date on whatever's coming out with the Inspired Evolution, please subscribe. There's all these links in the bio for you to tune into the episodes and all these different platforms, just so the message can get to you and your loved ones. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Stay inspired to evolve.